repeating myself. I'm talking louder. And what else did I do? Anybody notice?
Got the compulsion.
Yeah, you felt it, okay?
Yeah.
What do we do to our dog? Sit, 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 right? And then you wonder why training can be intimidating to a dog. So it's obvious that I could say anything I want. And if I'm speaking to a dog who doesn't understand my language, a human who doesn't understand my language, or a space alien, anything I say, no matter how many times I repeat it, you talked about your friend calling the dog 10 times. The dog didn't come back because it decided to listen on the 10th try. It just decided it was bored. Okay? It doesn't matter what you say. What matters is that you communicate. Now, what just happened there? I cheated. I went like that. All right? But I got a behavior. And I clicked and I paid for it. Do you know what that behavior was? What was it?
That.
Are you sure you got clicked and paid for sitting? Because you sat, you turned your feet in, and then you put your hands here. So are you sure that it was for sitting? Are you motivated by what you got paid, assuming that was real?
Yes.
Okay, so she got some money there. Now, if we don't speak the same language, all right, because I'm going to shut up after this. If we don't speak the same language and you want more of that, you're not exactly sure what you got it for, but now you want to find out, what would you do? You can't tell me, you have to show me. All right, now, why is she sitting?
She likes the money.
It's the payment. Okay, so now, any behavior that you click and you pay with a good reward, you're going to get more of. So you're going to get to a point very quickly that your dog is going to start harassing you with sits and downs and anything else that you are paying for. When you get to a point where you are getting a rhythmic behavior thrown at you over and over and over and over again, then what we do is we start to teach the language, okay? So Holly's on to me. She says, I'm sure it's about sitting now. So she's sitting over and over again. So what I'm going to ask you to do is bear with me. I'm going to do that about 6, 7 times in a row. I'm going to take that money back. Okay, so here's what I start to do now. Assois. Assois. Doesn't matter, by the way, where I'm standing, where I'm facing. Assois. Notice the timing of the word. Assois. Assois. What's the timing of the word?
Right before you're clicking.
It's right as she starts the behavior. It could also be assois at the end. In other words, assois. I'm pretty darn sure she's going to do it again, so I can just spit it out. But is she sitting because of the word? Is she sitting because I'm saying that word? No. I'm just kind of, I call it sneaking in the cue. It's like she's doing it, I'm just putting it in her ear. Okay? Now, it takes about 100 times for a dog to put together, ooh, that click, that behavior, that reward, and that word before the word starts to sink in. So what happens, go ahead and stand up one more time, okay? We do it about 100 times, and at some point I can look at her and say, oops, sorry. I can look at her and say, assois. And she understands. Now, your dogs, I am sure, have that process down in your kitchen because you've done it a gazillion times in the kitchen. But you take them outside and they go, I've never heard that word before in my life. And we go, bad dog, you're not listening, or you're ignoring me, or you're blowing me off. And the dog's going, no, you have not generalized that behavior. It's like driving a car. You and I could switch cars today. And I would have to adjust the seat. You're taller than I am. I would have to adjust the mirrors. I'd have to get used to where's the button for the radio and the lights. When you ask a dog to sit outside as opposed to in the kitchen, it's not like switching cars. It's like we switch cars, but you drive an 18-wheeler. I kind of have to learn how to drive all over again. But the good news is that if I switch cars with each of you every day, well, now I can drive a box truck. Now I can drive an 18-wheeler. Now I can drive a sports car. So if you practice with your dog in the kitchen and the living room and the bedroom and the backyard and the front yard and on walks and here and at the park, the dog goes, oh, it just gets easier in each new location. But that's why your dog says, I have no idea what you're talking about, okay? Again, think back to fluency. So go ahead and flip to the last page of your homework sheet, because this is what we've gone over today, and that is the training process. That's really what it's all about from start to finish, is starting with a behavior, reinforcing it like crazy until it starts to pop out on its own, and then you give it a name, and then you ask for it by name. But we tend to skip from, wow, you did it? Now I want you to do it whenever I ask for the rest of your life. And we're asking too much. So we need to generalize. So in other words, you can go home today, look at your dog and say, sit. And here's a little example of generalization. Try this one. Your dog is standing over there. Try sitting on the floor, facing away from your dog, and tell them to sit. What are they going to do?
Jump on me.
My
Maybe.
dog's going to come and bite the hair in the back of his
Number
head.
2, what else might they do?
Ignore it.
Yeah.
A dog who has a really strong sit might sit, but I guarantee they're going to run over in front of you and do it
And
over
then do
here.
it over.
Okay? Try telling your dog to sit facing the dog, but now lay down on the floor on your belly. See what happens. Yeah, most of you will get licked in the face. Okay? So in other words, sit. If you want sit to mean sit to mean sit to mean sit in all these crazy positions and locations, you've got to practice in all of those positions and locations. Okay? So it's get a behavior. How do we get a behavior?
That's what I was going to ask you.
We're going to capture. We're going to capture with our clicker. The dog does something, click, then treat. Okay? Click, then pay. Click, then ball. Click, then whatever. Capturing. So your homework's going to be to capture sits and downs. Now, especially smaller dogs or very, very energetic dogs, or if you have 2 dogs, they don't spend a lot of time laying down because they're running around with each other, okay, until they get tired. So if you're not capturing down after down after down, the trick is, I call it the 20 and 20. You run the dog into the ground, you bring them back in the house, and then what you can do is just keep a leash on and just stand there so they can't go anywhere or do anything. You just wait for them to lay down. If you do this in the first 2 or 3 days, okay, you will have a down. And then you can start capturing them as they happen. But you're going to get more sits than downs. That's just very normal. Okay? Questions on that? Okay, so let's go over this, and we're going to go over this different ways. We're going to go over it in class every week. What's our goal? To get a behavior. We could lure, but we don't want to lure, so I don't want you doing any luring at home, okay? So we're just going to capture. So you see your dog sit. What do you say?
You don't say anything.
Good. Nothing. Right. You say not a word. What do?
You click,
Click,
and then
you pay. And if we do this enough times over the next week, what are we going to see?
A lot of sits.
A lot of sits. And if you do it with downs, you're going to see a lot of downs. And if you do it with any behavior that you like, you're going to see more of that. Now, what's the next step? Or what do we want to see from capturing behavior over and over and clicking and paying? If we do it enough, what should we see? What should start to happen? Deborah mentioned it before.
Get a roll.
Yeah, to the point of annoyance.
Oh.
Okay? So, when you start getting these ridiculously repetitive behaviors, what is it time to do?
Name the word.
Naming it, and naming it means saying it when. Does it mean saying, do it now, do it? What does
Just
it
they're
mean?
about to do it. Or
What's that?
When they're doing it or about to do it.
Yeah, you sneak that word in just as they start doing it, okay? And then after about how many repetitions?
100.
About 100, give or take, and that number goes down with each new thing you teach and each new location you work in. Okay, 100 sounds like a lot. Think about it. It's a dozen a day for the next week. Not that many. Okay. Good.
Sit always comes before down. So
Doesn't have to.
eventually she just goes down all the time. In other words,
And that's where
She
cue
forgets to sit.
control comes in, meaning sit means sit, down means down. But down does not